All right. So have you ever actually thought about waking up one day and your bank account is just frozen?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
totally locked out of your money, no explanation, no nothing, no recourse. I
Right.
mean, it sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But this is actually happening more and more, and it's called debanking, and it's not just about financial security anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
So today we're going to dive deep into how debanking is evolving into this potential tool for basically controlling populations.
You're right to be concerned about this because um, while financial institutions have always had like methods for blacklisting people,
Right.
I think money laundering or terrorism or something,
Yeah.
but we're seeing like a real shift now. Deep banking is being used increasingly for political means, like silencing dissent and even targeting people based on their beliefs.
I mean, that's kind of chilling. So how does this even work? Is
Uh,
it just as simple as banks just deciding they don't like someone's opinions?
Well, it's a little more complex than that, I think. It's really tied to the rapid digitization of our lives. Like
Mm.
every cashless payment, every online purchase, any credit check, it all creates this data trail.
Okay, so we're leaving digital footprints everywhere. I
Uh,
get that. But how does that translate into someone actually getting debanked?
Well, think of it as like this web that's weaving together all your financial transactions with your online activity and even your social interactions.
Uh-huh.
And these third-party aggregators compile massive data sets, creating these like social scores based on your digital
Hey,
footprint.
hold on, social scores. Like a credit score, but for your entire life?
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
And financial institutions are relying more and more on these scores, combined with what they call Know Your Customer protocols, or KYC,
Right.
to make decisions about who gets access to their services.
So KYC links my financial transactions to my identity, and then these social scores add another layer of judgment on top of that based on my online activity.
It's exactly.
Imagine a system that knows where you shop, what you post online, who you associate with, and then uses that information to decide how financially trustworthy you are.
So it's like they're building this complete profile of who I am, what I believe in, and then judging my worthiness based on that data.
Right.
Ah.
That's scary.
And that judgment can have very real consequences.
Yeah.
Like, take the case of Nigel Farage, the British politician who was like super instrumental in the whole Brexit movement.
Oh, yeah. His debanking made international headlines.
It did.
Mm.
And while the bank never officially stated why they did it, many people believe that it was directly because of his political views,
Yeah.
making it a really high-profile example of politically motivated debanking.
So if someone like Farage, a prominent figure like that, can be targeted, what about everyday people?
Well, that's the scary part.
Ah,
The Canadian truckers who protested the COVID-19 mandates are a chilling example. Many of them had their accounts frozen, basically cutting off their livelihoods for participating in a protest.
so they were financially punished for exercising their right to dissent.
Exactly. And it demonstrates the potential for debanking to be used as a tool for social and political control. It raises some really serious questions about whether simply expressing an unpopular opinion could put your financial access at risk.
So it's not just about security anymore, it's about controlling the narrative. But what about someone like Kanye West? He was debanked too, right? But he's a celebrity with massive wealth. How does that fit in?
Well, Kanye's case, despite his wealth and fame, actually illustrates how arbitrary these decisions can be.
Yeah.
His controversial views and statements led to him being debanked, showing that no one is truly immune.
This is starting to feel very dystopian. Are we sleepwalking into a world where expressing certain opinions could literally cost us access to our own money?
It's a valid concern,
It is.
and one that we need to take very seriously.
Definitely. I feel like we've walked into a real life Black Mirror episode or something where, you say the wrong thing and then all of a sudden you can't access any of your money.
It's not that far off. I mean, it's a concern we should take pretty seriously. Debanking might seem like an isolated issue, but it's really part of this larger trend towards surveillance and control that's kind of accelerating around the world.
So you're talking about that whole cashless society push
Right.
and things like those central bank digital currencies.
Yeah, the CBDCs.
That's the CBCs. I keep hearing about those.
Exactly. All of these things seem kind of unrelated, but they actually paint a pretty clear picture, and it's a little bit concerning. Like, imagine a world where every transaction is tracked. Every dollar you spend is watched by, a central authority.
Yeah.
That's what CBDCs could bring about.
Yeah, but don't governments argue that those digital currencies will make things more efficient and reduce fraud and all that?
They do. They present those arguments, but, at what cost?
Right.
The potential for abuse is enormous.
Yeah.
With a CBDC, Governments could have this crazy level of control over your finances. They could freeze your assets,
Hmm.
restrict your spending, even like dictate where and how you use your money,
Yeah.
all with a few keystrokes.
Yeah. So forget expressing unpopular opinions. You could be financially punished for buying the wrong groceries or something.
Right, or donating to a cause the government doesn't like.
Right.
It's a chilling thought, and it's not so far-fetched when you consider the direction we're heading in. Like the push for cashless societies, the rise of social scoring, the development of CBDCs,
Uh-huh.
it all points to a future where financial control becomes like a really potent tool for enforcing conformity.
It's like we're trading our financial freedom for convenience. And the worst part is, like, most people don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah.
But even if we accept that, like, this move towards digital currency is inevitable, isn't there still, like, some level of protection? You would think there would be checks and balances in place.
You would hope so, but history kind of shows us that when governments acquire more power, they rarely give it up willingly.
Yeah.
Look at how easily surveillance measures have been expanded in recent years,
Right.
often in the name of security or national interest. The potential for abuse with the CBDC is vast, and we really need to consider that those in power will always try to consolidate their control.
So what can we do about it? Is there any way to push back against this tide of surveillance and control?
It starts with awareness. The more people that understand these risks, the more likely they are to demand accountability and push for safeguards.
Education is key, but is it enough? What about concrete actions we can take right now?
There are a bunch of steps you can take to protect your financial autonomy and your privacy.
Okay.
The goal is to minimize your reliance on centralized systems and enhance your own control over your data.
Okay, give us the insider tips. What practical steps can we take to safeguard ourselves?
Okay, first, diversify your assets. Don't rely just on traditional banking systems.
Okay.
Explore decentralized cryptocurrencies, hold some cash reserves, consider alternative payment systems.
So spread our financial eggs across multiple baskets.
Exactly.
Well,
Explore privacy-enhancing technologies. Use VPNs to mask your online activity. Keep separate email addresses and phone numbers for sensitive communications. And be mindful of what you share online, especially politically sensitive views.
so we need to build like a digital fortress around our lives. Is it really that serious?
It's about being proactive, taking control of your digital footprint. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand how these systems work, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this new landscape and protect yourself from potential risks.
Okay, so we've talked about debanking surveillance and the potential risks of CBDCs. But how does this all connect back to the individual examples we talked about earlier, like Farage, the Canadian truckers, Kanye West?
They're like a warning of what can happen when financial systems are used as weapons against individuals.
Right.
And while their situations might seem unique, they actually highlight the vulnerability we all face in a world that's increasingly digital, where our financial lives are tied to our political beliefs and online behavior.
So what does this mean for the average person? Are we all at risk of being debanked?
While most people won't face debanking, the fact that it's even a possibility is a cause for concern. It points to a bigger shift toward control and surveillance, where our financial lives are more and more intertwined with our political beliefs and online behavior.
It's a chilling thought that something as basic as access to our own money could be used as a weapon to silence dissent.
It is. And that's why it's so important to be aware of these issues and take steps to protect ourselves. We can't afford to be complacent.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I still feel like we're just scratching the surface. What are some of the deeper implications of this shift towards financial control?
It raises really fundamental questions about freedom and autonomy in the digital age.
Yeah.
What does it even mean to be free when our financial lives are constantly monitored and controlled?
Right.
How can we make sure that technology empowers individuals instead of becoming a tool for oppression? These are questions we need to deal with as we navigate this new landscape.
It's almost like we're at a crossroads.
Exactly. The choices we make today will determine the kind of world we live in tomorrow. If we value our freedom, our privacy, and our autonomy, we need to be proactive in defending those values.
Well, we're back, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little bit like I just saw a glimpse of the future, and I'm not so sure I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable to feel that way. There's a lot to unpack here,
Yeah.
and the implications are really far-reaching. It's like we're on the edge of this new era where the definition of freedom is being completely redefined, but in the digital world.
Right, it's not even about bank accounts anymore. It's about the fundamental right to just express yourself, to live your life without being afraid that you're going to be financially penalized for having the wrong opinions or doing something that those in power think is unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly. And this brings up a big question, like what can we even do about it?
Right.
How can we make sure that technology is actually empowering people instead of just being used as a tool for oppression?
I mean, we talked about like individual actions, like diversifying assets, using those privacy tools and things like that.
Right.
But what about like systemic change?
Yeah.
Is there any way to really push back against these huge forces that seem to be pushing us toward this like dystopian future?
I think the answer is collective action. We need to demand more transparency from our governments and financial institutions. We have to advocate for strong data protection laws that actually put individual privacy first. And we have to support organizations that are out there fighting for digital rights and holding the powerful accountable.
It's starting to sound a little bit like David versus Goliath.
It might feel that way, but history is full of examples of everyday people banding together to challenge things that seemed impossible.
That's true.
And the fight for digital freedom is no different. It's all about taking back our autonomy in a world that's becoming increasingly digital and controlled.
So where do we even begin? What are the best ways to get involved and actually make a difference?
Well, you can start by educating yourself and others about these issues. I
Yeah.
think the more people who understand the risks, the more likely we are to see some real change.
You can support organizations like the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, or the Open Rights Group. They're the ones on the front lines of this battle.
So raising awareness is supporting those advocacy groups and putting pressure on like our elected officials to put policies in place that actually protect our digital rights.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't just about us, it's about future generations too. We have this responsibility to make sure that they inherit a world where freedom and autonomy are not just things of the past, but basic rights that are respected and protected in the digital age.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive. It's clear that we're at this critical point, and the decisions we make right now will have a big impact on the future. So what's the one takeaway you would want to leave our listeners with?
Knowledge is power. By understanding the forces at play and taking steps to protect ourselves and our freedoms, we can actually create a future where technology empowers us instead of enslaving us. It's a fight worth having, and one that we really can't afford to lose.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the complex and concerning world of debanking. We hope you found it informative and empowering. Remember, the future isn't set in stone. It's up to us to shape it. Let's choose freedom. Let's choose autonomy. Let's choose a digital future where our rights are respected and our voices are heard.